So I think we'll go ahead and get started. If Steve pops in, then we'll just add him to the conversation if you guys are all right with that.
Yep.
Okay, well, hello and welcome to our virtual career expo featuring skilled and technical trades. I'm Tina Chace, Director of Business Development for the Lee Summit Economic Development Council, and we are happy to help facilitate this event in coordination with Herndon Career Center and Southland CAPS. This hour focuses on careers in construction trades, specifically highlighting some of the opportunities on the professional side. But that's not to say that we won't discuss maybe some of the hands-on positions as well. But I do think it's important for students to understand that the construction industry is really full of a very diverse set of jobs. We are joined here today with panelists from major employers here in the Kansas City region. So I'm very excited to have them here today with us to share their personal experiences. First, we have Hunter Melies. He's a BIM technician with Henderson Engineers. And we have Ms. Sara Snodderly, who's the Workforce Development Recruitment Director with Emery, Sapp & Sons. And maybe if Steve joins us, he's with Centric Build, so he may pop in here. Just a quick FYI, I haven't heard from him otherwise, so we'll see. But thank you for being here today, both of you. Before we get started, I do want to mention to those of you who are joining us live to feel free and put questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Miss Alyssa has joined us today, and she's here to help kind of facilitate some of those questions to be sure we get those answered for you. And we have lots of questions, so we'll get started. First off, Hunter, can you tell us a little bit about Henderson Engineers as a company? What do you guys do? Do you have certain services that you focus on? Kind of give us a general idea of what Henderson is.
Yes, so Henderson's an engineering firm based in Lenexa. We mainly focus on national companies and clients. We have about, I think, 11 total offices, including the one in Lenexa, out, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, New York, places like that. But our services we focus on, we have quite a few services, but our main big ones are mechanical, plumbing, electrical, fire and life safety. We do refrigeration work, construction management, acoustics, audio and video, security, and quite a few others, but those are our main ones. So yeah, we just, the clients come to us beginning of the projects, and we kind of talk to them to get an idea of, what they want in their building, what they're going to be doing, and then we helped design that per codes. So.
Yeah, so you said you do a little bit of construction management, right? Is that what you said?
Yes. Yeah.
But it's mostly engineering, meaning
mostly
the design
engineering
side of it.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, Sara, tell us about Emery Sapp.
Emery, Sapp & Sons is a heavy civil construction company, primarily located in the Midwest region. We have offices in Kansas City, Columbia, Springfield, Springdale, Arkansas. We have some satellite offices in Joplin and Hannibal. And then we also have a asphalt company, Hutchins Asphalt Company, in Cassville, Missouri. So we also own a company out in Arizona, Aiken Gardner, that does a different aspect of what we do as far as underground utilities. But we do pretty much anything before a building goes up. We do grading, site work. We do concrete paving. We do asphalt. We do underground utilities. We do bridge work. Pretty much anything to do with the project. We self-perform anywhere between 75 and 80% of our own work on a job. So we're looking for heavy equipment operators, foremen, superintendents, individuals who have experience with underground utilities as far as pipe, concrete finishers, We also have our aspect of inside our professional side. So we have project managers, estimators, we have a whole accounting team, workforce team, marketing, all the other pieces that would go along with any other business. We also do surveying and a lot with GPS and stringless functions as far as paving and trimming goes. So.
Wow. So you kind of went right into my second question. I love that.
Mhm.
So then, Hunter, what would be the types of positions that you have in Henderson? I mean, so clearly, if you have construction management, you probably have a totally different types of jobs or careers in that area versus maybe your engineering teams. But I think it's interesting how Henderson just does their teams. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit too?
Yeah, so Henderson, we break up into individual teams that take on different types of projects or customers. So, we have like A team, Bravo squad, Echo and stuff. I'm personally on Bravo squad. So my team focuses on like grocery and retail stores and convenience stores. So I will work on Walmart's come and goes, racetracks. We have the GAP program. Other teams might focus on like one team might focus on hospitals. Another one might do schools like K through 12. Airports, warehouse. We got one for entertainment and sports venues. So that's kind of how we break that down. And then each team will be comprised of, you'll have your managers, and then you'll have your BIM CAD technicians, designers and engineers. And then you have your project managers, your administration specialists. All of those you'll have, someone on your team in each of those positions that kind of all work together to get our jobs completed and done. So yeah.
So let me ask you specifically, since you've mentioned or we've mentioned the BIM technician, what does that stand for?
So BIM actually stands for like your modeling information. So that's just like the Revit program that we use. Kind of houses all of your building information into the program to create these buildings for our customers and stuff.
Gotcha. So there's different types of technicians then? Is that true or no?
Yeah, so on my team, we are broken up to, like, I'm mechanical, HVAC, and plumbing. And then we'll have electrical, and we'll have someone that does refrigeration work. So everyone's kind of specialized into what they know and what they work on in the job.
Okay, we'll probably circle back around to that because I think that's interesting as you kind of look at the education piece, right? And how that plays into that.
Yeah.
So Sarah, how's your company? You mentioned lots of different kind of companies that you've acquired. So how is the structure of your company?
So our corporate headquarters is in Columbia, Missouri. And then what we have is what we refer to as our branch offices. And they're usually in a specific region. So we have Springfield, Kansas City, and our newest one is in Springdale, Arkansas. So they kind of encompass those different areas, and they all take on work in those regions. So when we're talking about different kind of jobs, they were talking about being broken into different teams. We definitely have teams. It's more broken into type of work that we do. I mean, because we're designated as concrete, pipe, bridge, or grading, but each of our branches can facilitate for any of that kind of work. So we do work with airports, we do manufacturing, warehouses, we do subdivisions, private work, we do DOT, major highways. So it's really a pretty large partner with schools. So we do a large scale of work, and we really pride ourselves on relationships that we've built with customers in order to continue to facilitate for their projects when they have those.
Great. So let's talk about what each of you do specifically, because you know, you guys are vastly different too in your specific roles within your company. So Sara, from an you're kind of an HR person, right? So to kind of talk about that as it relates to, you know, Emery and your business.
So I handle workforce development for our company, and then under myself, I have recruiters, and then I also have the training piece. So we facilitate for our company to find individuals in any role that we have open, align those with different branches who need them to get them hired. We also help provide training resources that they need. We help identify career pathing, you know, on the professional side, you know, anywhere from seeking out applicants, actively seeking them out to bring them onto our team. So it's really that whole recruitment piece is what I help facilitate for Emery Sapp. And, you know, we're hiring anywhere from, like, starting this season, just in our Columbia branch, we were looking at potentially 50 hires. Kansas City, probably 20 to 25. And then our Springdale area, probably close to 50 or 60. So, and those are expansion of what we already have in place.
Okay, so is that because you are somewhat seasonal, or is that because you have added on?
So one of it's workload and what we need to have in place to make sure we're meeting production, jobs stay on time. But it's also, I hate to use the word seasonal because we are really weather dependent. In the winter, if the weather's good, we're going, we're pushing dirt, we're making things happen. So it's one of those things. It's, if we have a nice winter, we could work all winter long. So I think it's more to what our numbers have really, what's driven our numbers is really our expansion and into new markets, and also just the scale of work that we're doing.
Yeah. So can I, so let me ask you to kind of speak from somebody who would work out in the field, and it could be any of these positions. What does your day look like? So what would their day look like? So let me ask you, we did have some preset questions that came through, and they were all kind of similar to each other, but I'll read them to you.
Okay.
So how is your day structured? What's the environment like? And how many hours are you asked to work?
So I can give you a ballpark on a typical day. Typically your supervisor would let you know where you're going to be. You know, you may be on a site for a little while, continuous, but you may finish a job and then say, okay, now tomorrow we need a report over to here. We're starting a new job, and this is what's going to happen. A lot of crews start between 6:30 and 7, and then they work till end of day, which end of day for them could be maybe 6:30, could be later. I hate to put a cap on it because it just depends on the project and the timelines that we're under, and what needs to get accomplished. So it's going to look different for a concrete crew, a utilities crew, even grading and bridge, what those days exactly look like. But you report, you do a safety talk on the job first thing in the morning, line out what the objective is for the day, kind of get lined out on what you need to be doing for the day, and then you hit the ground running, and you know, you're working at a very fast pace.
And the environment is very different depending on what team you're on, right? Or focus.
It is. I mean, you know, you're going to be outside. You're going to need to have all your PPE on, which means vest, hard hat, safety glasses, your steel-toed boots. If you're working on a concrete crew, you could be, you know, it gets a little bit, it's a little more labor intensive. It's hot. Pipe crew, same. You could be down in a, you know, it's just so different, honestly. But you're definitely outdoors all day.
Yeah. So that's vastly different from Hunter, right, Hunter? So let's kind of talk about your role. What does your day, typical kind of day look like? And I'll remind you what the questions say, which is, how's your day structured? What's the environment look like? And how many hours are you asked to work typically? You're on mute. There you
Sorry
go.
about that. So, I mean, as you see now, I'm working from home. We do have an office. You can do really either or. Offices, you know, I have cubicles with my team, around my other team members in the office, but you're working at your desk all day. Here at Henderson, as long as I log in between the hours of 9 and 4, I can show up as early as I want or work as late as I want, as long as I'm in there at the core hours. But basically my day to day is I log in, and at any given time I can be assigned a project, but I usually have between like 10 and 15 jobs at various stages in the project's lifespan. So, you know, I'll log in for the day, I'll decide, I'll look at my workload, see what needs to be worked on next, start drafting, you know, yeah. And then hours here at Henderson, we like to sit around like 45 hours a week on average. You know, right now we're working quite a bit more, but we like to sit around the 45 hours.
Gotcha. So would you say that your job is pretty individual then, or during the day, are you interacting quite a bit with others about
So
these
yeah,
projects?
I'll go long stretches of working by myself on a project, but multiple times a day you're getting together to meet with your team, you know, your other electricals or engineers or anyone else working on the project, to answer questions, coordinate items with them, you know, asking your project manager questions on, you know, scope of work items, things that, you know, you come across that we originally thought maybe needed to be done, now it doesn't. So yeah, throughout the day you're coordinating with, you know, the rest of your team.
Yeah. So I think that's a good to point out. So there's two very different perspectives, two very different companies, right, who perform work in the construction industry, but really at different phases in the process too. So, you know, in each of you individually play a very specific role in the success of your company. And I think it's just something that students need to understand in construction. Everything really ties to a project. Right. And there's certain key terminology that you're going to hear being used on a regular basis. But the one common core is this project, which can be given by a client. It can be in all kinds of different types of construction, like Hunter had mentioned. It could be a sports complex. It could be a bridge or road or residential. It could be all kinds of things. So I think it's just for students to understand that construction is just such a vague term for so many different types of companies who work in this industry at different phases of a project. So let's see. I think I'm going to go to you, Hunter, and talk about a little bit. So several students on the call are enrolled in classes in their high school. Okay. And so one of those classes could be CAD drawing, right? I think most high schools have this as an elective class, if you will. And that's going to be pretty similar to what you do, if not the exact same thing you do. So did you take this class, and is that what spurred your interest in this? Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so my high school had AutoCAD drafting, which is just a 2D program. And that is a program that I use now. I've used it every job I've had. So the thing with drafting is there's lots of different programs out there. You know, as far as Revit, Inventor, AutoCAD, BIM 360. There's so many different programs that you can use to draft, and it comes down to what your company's using. So most companies do use AutoCAD, which you might be using in your class, and just getting to know the program and everything is so helpful whenever you come into the industry, because once you come into your company, that's when you're going to really learn what it is they work on and how they do things. But having the fundamental knowledge of how the programs work is what we need to have as, you know, a BIM CAD technician.
That's a good point. So from there, can somebody in high school who takes a CAD class come in and work at Henderson, or come in and work at an engineering firm?
Some, I guess, here at Henderson, they generally like to see that you have your 1 or 2 year certificate for drafting for your BIM CAD classes and stuff. Some smaller companies, though, I've come across, I actually worked at one that didn't require you to have a degree of any sort. It just, as long as you knew the programs well enough, then they were willing to hire. But I think most companies now do ask that you have like a 1 to 2 year certificate, you know, program or something like that, or 1 or 2 year degree. So yeah.
So tell us about your pathway.
So my pathway, I actually, when I took my drafting class in high school, I took it very, very early on. So I kind of forgot about it. I went into criminal justice initially at UCM. Decided that wasn't something I wanted to do and kind of jumped around. And then I remembered that I did drafting in high school and how much I liked it. One of my friends at college was doing it. So that's kind of how I got started on it at school. So because of my path, I went ahead and finished my 4-year degree with drafting design at UCM before, you know, I had an internship that I got during college, and then I started out at a small company right after I graduated before moving on to Henderson here. But, you know, looking back, had I known what I wanted to do at the beginning, I think I would have just gone for the 2-year certificate program. But yeah.
Okay. Fair. So Sara, let's talk about kind of tell me in your company, and I know, you know, it's lots of different positions, right?
Mm-hmm.
To cover. They're all going to be a little bit different. But I think what students want to know is there a way for me to go straight from high school into working for you? Or if I choose to maybe do a couple years of college or technical school somewhere, what does that look like? Do you have apprenticeships or the ability to kind of work and learn? Tell us about some of the options with Emery, Sapp & Sons.
So you definitely can have those opportunities straight out of high school. For Emery Sapp, you would start as a laborer for us. You could be on a dirt crew, you could pipe crew, could be on concrete crew. We do have those things in place to help train and help you learn and get the tools that you need to be successful. That's one option. We do have individuals that come from technical schools and they do maybe a 9-month program at a technical school for heavy equipment operating. It could be they go for like a civil type degree. That's a 2-year program at a technical school where you touch on QC, quality control, you touch on surveying, kind of more I would say the like blueprint reading, different things of that nature. We have individuals that come in that way. Some technical schools do have utility programs, and they go for a 2 years and they get their degree for that, and we bring them on as somebody who works for our underground utilities. We also have engineers that work for us, and they went to 4-year college, gotten their degree, and have come in, and they're estimators and they're project managers. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can come on. You don't have to have a degree to get your foot in the door here. We have several individuals who work within our office who they did not go to college. So there's those options, not just for field, but also for our office staff.
Yeah, I think that's one thing about construction, the industry of construction that I like so much, is that there is something for everyone, right? And
Yeah.
no matter what your background is, your skill set, you can enter entry level and really work your way up and down and move around to different types of teams. I really love that.
So
Yeah.
I went to school for marketing. I went to UCM as well. Went to school for marketing, got my business degree, my minor in marketing. Actually worked for a non-for-profit for 13 years as a marketing director. Came to Emery Sapp, started in the marketing, helped with their kind of build up marketing. And then in the last 3 years, I switched over to developing their workforce development team. So there's a lot of different paths that you can go. So, if a lot of the individuals that start on our surveying team here at Emery Sapp, they end up going into being estimators and then project managers. So there's a lot of different routes too. Once you get in the door, you may start at this, but that doesn't mean that has to be your end game.
Yeah, I love that. So do you actually have drafters or designers as well if you have engineers, or is that get called out?
So most of that gets, we partner that out. That's usually already handled on the front end of it. We do have individuals that work, do job setup for surveying and whatnot, for jobs. We also do a lot with drone technology. So whether it's topoing piles, which is measuring dirt piles, or it could be for asphalt, different things like that. We do use drones more so than, I would say that's really become highly used in the last 2 years for us.
Wow, so that's interesting. I'm going to go off script here and say, do you sub that out or do you hire that in-house?
We do that in-house. Our surveying techs have all gotten past their, to get their aviation or however, whatever term that is, don't quote me on that, but the license that they need to actually run the drones. They're all certified, and we do that in-house. Another cool aspect that we do is we work a lot with GPS. So a lot of our paving machines run off what's called total stations. So you don't have to set string line anymore. You can just set those total stations up about 200 feet apart. And then there's a GPS model that sits on your paver, and those talk to each other. So then they know exactly where they're going. So there's so many new things within construction on the technology side that it's just very different. And we also have equipment that runs off GPS, where once it gets you to that certain grade, it knows the exact grade you have to get to, and then it'll just run that.
So when you're looking to fill some of these roles, then I mean, is it clearly it would be easier to hire somebody who maybe already has experience with that type of, machine and ran it before, but will you hire and train that in-house? And are you taking your laborers and kind of maybe working them up? Or
So we do have a program. We do an operator apprenticeship program within our company. And after working for Emery Sapp for so long, I want to say you have to be here. You do 3 years. You can apply to go through that program, and it's a 3-year program, and it takes you from being operator 3 to an operator 2. So it just helps you improve on your skills and technique to advance you, which also helps improve your pay. So we do that. We also are looking at some different programs for our laborers to help them enhance their skill sets. We do offer, after you've been here for a year, we'll help you obtain your CDL license. Most of the individuals on our crews do need a CDL at times, not all, but especially with our asphalt side, they jump in and out of vehicles a lot. So we do help encourage them to get their CDL, and we will help pay for that. Gotcha.
So sounds like there's opportunity if, let's just say there's an individual student on here who already knows, hey, I'm committed to college, right? I'm committed, whether that's a 2-year technical school or a 4-year degree. He knows maybe he's going to be a heavy equipment operator, or he's going to go in construction management and do a 4-year program. But there's also something for a kid who doesn't know and wants to come in and just work a little bit, figure out maybe which one he really likes. And that's the benefit to coming in entry level and just kind of working your way around, right?
Absolutely.
So do you have an apprenticeship program then where it's like a work and learn?
We don't have that currently. You do have to be 18 years old to work for Emery Sapp. Okay. So we don't have that in place at this point. That's not to say that's not something that we haven't looked at or won't continue to look at moving forward. We are big on, though, if you come to us and you don't have experience, and let's say you're fresh out of high school, we do train you and make sure that you have all the tools you need to be successful. So at this time, we don't have an actual apprenticeship program, though, for that.
Yeah. Gotcha. So Hunter, let me ask you this. You had talked about your team aspect, right? So inside your teams, you all kind of work together. Explain to me, with you being the designer and you work closely with a project manager or an engineer, or both, is that the same?
So well, both, to answer your question, but the project manager is going to be someone that's in contact with the client on a day-to-day basis to coordinate what they want done on the project, your scope of work list and stuff, or if you have any questions or concerns, you can give it to your project manager to then ask. And then I do work with engineers. It's kind of a weird term to say. So like BIM/CAD technicians and like an engineer one, or just any engineer that is coming into this industry, their first few years, we will actually do basically the same type of work in designing these projects. But later on, after like 4 years, I think it is, engineers can take the PE test, which certifies them and allows them to sign and seal and stuff. All the these projects and everything. So I will talk to an engineer that has their PE to any questions I have on the job, or things that might need to be done a certain way per codes, or how they want to see it, just to go over overall design of the project.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting for people to understand, as a designer, when you're working on a project, you have to know almost as much as the project or the PE, right? When you're doing it, like you have to kind of understand what you're drawing, why
Mhm.
you're drawing it. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so most designers or BIM CAD technicians and stuff, especially early on in your career, you're going to get direction from the engineer on what to do and how to do it and why. And as you gain experience and knowledge in the field and on what you're doing, you'll become more independent and be able to, just know what you're supposed to do, make your own decisions and everything. That's why there's a lot of growth potential in the BIM CAD, you know, field spot. So, I can become a designer or a manager or a quality control person to then, check other people's work. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So I think it is interesting and from an engineering perspective or whatever, when a lame person like myself, I don't actually work in the construction industry, but I did work for an engineering company at one time. And to understand the plans and the process that so many hands that it goes through to just get it on paper. And then for people to take that paper, that paper is the whole plan, right? It's like
Right.
everybody
It's
needs
basically we're making the blueprint to whatever it is that's being built. So whether it's a building or, for us, it's mostly buildings and stuff. But the great thing about being a BIM CAD tech is I can go and do and work on anything. So if
Mhm.
you find a company that makes tractors, or a company that makes I don't know. There's tons of different fields out there. But we draw the blueprints to it, and then it's passed on to the construction phase where they will build it.
Yeah, so that's a good point. It doesn't have to be construction. You could work with a manufacturer on an actual product,
Hmm.
right?
Yep, that's true.
Someone I was talking to the other day, he helped design kennels for pets, for dogs.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, it sounds like that would just be pretty easy, right? I mean, it's just a kennel. He's like, oh no, we do fancy kennels, right? Like, and they're all unique. So I do think that in your role, there's lots of room to be in lots of industries, I guess.
Hmm.
Right?
Basically, anything you look at that has been built at one point in time went through a designer to be drawn up on the plans to be used, out in the field or in the factory or wherever it's being built.
Right. And from there, in the construction industry, you've got, the project managers, the estimators who are like estimating what, oh, help me, Sarah, the actual,
Cost. They
yeah,
just cost of the project and what it's going to take to get it done.
yeah, yeah. Then there's the whole construction piece. Then there's the superintendents on the site for
Yeah.
each to make sure that the job gets done. There's so many layers, right?
There are quite a few. We have our crews, and then we have our foremen that oversee the crews. We have our superintendents who kind of facilitate overseeing probably more than one crew. Technically, a superintendent would be over like maybe pipe, or maybe it's over concrete or grading. And then you have your operations manager who helps organize all the jobs, what type of equipment you need for the jobs that week. Do we have the people to do the work? And then from there, you have your estimators, project managers, and then really your VPs and whatnot as you go up.
Yeah. So just for perspective, how many employees do you have, Sarah, under Emery?
We're sitting, I believe, right at about 1,400, I believe.
Hunter, do you know how many is at Henderson, just out of curiosity?
Between 900 and 1,000, I think now.
So, I mean, if I'm a student and I'm thinking about that's a lot of people, right? That's a lot of different positions. That's a lot of jobs. And that's just two companies inside the huge construction industry. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's quite a perspective. So, I will say we did get some preset questions, and for those of you on the call, again, feel free to jump in with Q&A. We're happy to answer those live as we get those. But we did get some preset questions, so I want to be sure we answer those. A good majority of them have to do with salary. So I know there's, again, we've talked about many different types of positions today. So I'll just read you the questions and then you can tell me how you would like to answer. So basically, they want to know between an entry-level person and maybe a seasoned person, what kind of salary. Is this sustainable wages for entry level? Could they, live on their own? Is it hourly or salary? And what about benefits? How does benefits play into that? Then they kind of talk about raises and, did they level up based off seniority and how long they've been there? Or is it more based on performance? So either one.
So I would say entry level for us, you can make hold on one second.
Sure.
I'm on a phone call. Okay, sorry. Sorry. Entry level wages usually starting out would be right around, let's say no experience, right around $40,000 a year. That's hourly wage. Our salary wages typically don't start until you get into that superintendent role. So that we do annual reviews with all of our employees on earnings, and that's just based on, how you're doing as an employee, productivity, have you advanced your skill set and whatnot, just all the basics. We do provide benefits after 60 days of employment. So we do have full benefits, dental, vision. We have some life insurance, different things like that, benefits package. So, those individuals that come in and maybe have a little bit more skill they honestly on an hourly wage could start anywhere between 55 to 60 potentially. Mm-hmm. So honestly, for somebody coming straight out of high school and making that's $40,000 is more than some teachers make. So in some of our markets. So it's a good place to start and get your foot in the door. That can vary though too, because if you go on the road and travel, you can be on prevailing wage jobs, and those jobs vary in their hourly wage. They can vary anywhere from $24 an hour to upwards of $40 an hour. So yeah, so I throw a number out there. It's hard to say it's going to be that exact amount, but there's a lot of room for growth within those roles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Hunter, what about in the engineering industry, I guess? How's that work with your role and some of the others maybe?
So, kind of like Sara was saying, there's a lot that factors into pay. It could just be how a company's structured compared to another company. I know here at Henderson, we have like your entry-level engineering job is just going to be, your title will be engineering 1, and then you can be promoted to engineering 2, 3, senior engineer, senior designer. So then you have the designer side, which is something I would go into after the entry level of BIM CAD technicians. So you'd have designer 1, 2, 3, senior designer. All of those are going to give you different pay ranges.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could say that the typical BIM CAD technician job is hourly, and it can range from some companies anywhere from $19 an hour to $29 an hour. I know engineers typically walk in the door, they're usually salary. They're right around 60,000 a year starting out. Designers, I think when they first start out are about 55,000 a year. So, but yeah, there's lots of different factors that can, raise or
Right.
lower that number, or whatever, but.
And benefits play into the whole thing, health,
Mm.
dental, 401k, all of that. And so I think it's important that I think most kids don't really kind of consider that, right? But
It is important.
it is important because it is very expensive not to have health insurance. And if you're not going to be a student after you graduate high school and you're going to work full time, if you're offered benefits, you can't stay on your parents' benefits. So that those benefits are important to know what they are and what they cover, and it does figure into how much you're making, right? Because it's coming out of your check.
And I think one other thing I want to mention is we are an employee-owned company. So we do put stock into an account for our employees. Once they've worked 1,000 hours, they receive stock in an account. That's not money they have to contribute. That's all money that Emery Sapp puts in. And after 3 years, they're fully vested. So that money is theirs should they decide to leave after 3 years. So, and our stock has went up right at about 25% over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years. So that's not money they're having to contribute into a 401k. That's money the company's putting in.
Yeah. And Hunter, I know Henderson is pretty good about their benefit package as well. I would say that most companies these days have to pay attention to that piece, because that is one of those things that, you're recruiting employees, you need to be able to compete with each other. Companies in general do. So, again, students, make sure you're taking in the whole package as considered to be salary. So let's see, let me see. How much time do we have? Okay, we got about 10 minutes. So I would like to ask Sara, and when you're looking to hire an employee, what are you looking for? So that was a question that came into us earlier. Is there certain skill sets that you're looking for in a person?
So, it varies for every role. Obviously, the skill sets that are consistent are timeliness, trustworthy. One of the big things for us is we feel like we can really train individuals to do jobs and do the work they need to do. It's that culture fit. Do you fit within our culture and how we are as a company? We are a very driven, fast-paced company. And so having that drive is something we definitely look for, the excitement to be here and want to get a job. Those are pretty big things that we look at in every candidate. So I would say consistently, those are things that we would want to see from them, and their eagerness and willingness to learn.
Hunter, what do you think about Henderson? What kind of employees are they looking for? Skill sets?
Skill sets, I mean, you're just being driven. That's a big thing, is just, wanting to work. Don't come in trying to be lazy. Learn as much as you can. You got to have some good problem solving skills. Detail oriented. You got to be able to juggle, multitask. You're going to have multiple jobs on your plate with, different timelines and schedules. So you got to be able to multitask and pick those up. Yeah, I guess that would, good teamwork. You're going to be coordinating with a lot of different people, a lot of different disciplines. Yeah, I guess those would be the biggest things.
Yeah, I like that. Those are all very important. So how can students, high school or college, get connected to the construction industry and learn more about career opportunities. Are there specific programs or associations for that kids can get involved in to be exposed to opportunities in the construction industry that you're aware of? Either one of you?
I mean, there's a lot of organizations out there. I know Associated Builders and Contractors, they work quite a bit with students. And I know that's in the Kansas City area. I know there's a lot of technical schools that partner up with their or VOTEC type situations that connect with their high schools and have some opportunities where they have clubs and different things of that nature. There are companies that partner with high schools as well. So I would just, if I was in school right now, I would look to my counselor and find out what those resources are, or if you have a certain interest, maybe get with those teachers and find out how you can tie in with those different resources to get a better idea if that's really something you want to pursue.
Yeah. So does either one of your companies do like shadow days or tours or connect directly now?
So we do connect directly. We just started a trial program with Columbia Public Schools. And it is an intro to construction program. It's a 6-week program where we do the basics, and then we also get them out to job sites and actually put them through some different situations. And just others, where we can do concrete finishing and different pieces like that to give them that exposure. So that is one instance where we're actively tying directly into the schools and partnering.
Yeah. Hunter, do you know anything?
Well, I mean, Henderson has an internship program that is on the website. Anyone can look into to figure out the prerequisites for that. I don't think we necessarily have programs for any of that other stuff, but if anybody is ever looking to do kind of like you said, a little visit, walkthrough, or shadowing of some sort, just calling Henderson, getting a hold of their recruiting department. They would be more than happy to get something like that set up, or to get you in touch with an engineer, or whatever field it is that you're trying to get into. I think that's something that's pretty important early on before you start is just finding someone that actually does the job that you think you want to do and talking to them about it, asking them all your questions, maybe on a one-on-one type of thing, or trying to get on hands-on experience early on, because that's really going to be the best way to find out if you really like it or not.
Yeah, so that's something that we've heard pretty consistent on the panels that we've done today, is how important mentorship is when trying to figure out what you want to do, right? So and I think that you would be very surprised at the amount of people, even complete strangers, who will sit and talk to you about what they do. And having a network, and just asking around who your parents, your parents' friends, your teachers now, they're all great resources and they have a vast network, right? So this brings me to my last question and we'll wrap up. Really, I just want to know, if what's your best advice for students in getting into, career? What do you wish you would have known, back then, to help you kind of navigate into a self-sustaining career?
I think my advice would be to stay open-minded. Don't feel like a 4-year degree is everybody's path. It's not. There is nothing wrong with getting a job right out of high school, going to 2-year tech school. Every option is going to be different for the person. And don't feel like you have to go one direction. And while you're in high school, expose yourself to a lot of different things to truly find out where your likes and dislikes are. And, you know, have some energy, get out there and drive and show people that you want stuff and that you're hungry to work. That's something that I feel like we really need to work at.
Yeah. Hunter, what do you think?
I think that's, yeah, she covered most of that. I mean, myself personally, when I very first went off to college, I thought I wanted to do that criminal justice degree. I was lucky and fortunate enough to get an internship my freshman year. And that's where I realized, when doing those things hands-on at a job, that wasn't for me. I didn't like it. And that's, so I got out luckily early on, before, finishing a few more years of college. But that's why I think it's, definitely important early on, while you're still in high school, to, take initiative and, find people and talk to people that are in the field you think you want to do, and get their perspective and see, what they do day to day and everything. So
Yeah, very important. Well, I know that here in Lee Summit, the Lee Summit EDC is working exclusively with the district to really kind of embed more of those real world opportunities and really bringing businesses into the classroom and giving students better access to what it's really like to work these days. So I want to thank you both very much for joining us today, and hopefully we're going to see more of you as we progress through a lot of this program. So
Thank you. Thanks for having
Thank you.
us.
yeah, we'll see you next
Yep.
time then.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.